Joining me to continue this discussion on the security situation, especially in Plateau State, is Kabir Adamu, who is a security consultant. Mr. Adamu, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Let me start by asking you, are you surprised? I mean, Plateau State has enjoyed relative peace for quite a while now. Are you surprised that this latest attack has happened?
Well, to an extent, yes. To the extent that the security forces could not stop it, I am surprised, because I would have thought that the intelligence available would have indicated to them that something like that was going to happen. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, if you do a threat assessment and see the developments with regards to the upcoming elections, the trial of the past governor, the fact that a sitting senator and also a former governor is also being indicted, or rather he's been taken to court, and the possibility of indicting him is also very, very high, then you would have known that the dynamics at play would have led to this type of violence. So to that extent...
Are you suggesting there might be a connection to all of this thing you're talking about now?
There are indications that, yes, there are forces behind the crisis, or rather the resurgence of the crisis. And my point is that the security forces were caught off guard. If they had been doing their threat assessment, if they had been doing their intelligence analysis, then they should have known that there is an escalation of the alert level, and they should have responded more effectively to stop this type of development. Clearly, 2019 elections is a driver to the crisis that
intelligence is very key, and for a long time now, part of the reasons why most people say it would appear our security agencies have not been able to deal with some of this violence we've seen across the country is a failure of intelligence. But in this case now, you're suggesting that it appears intelligence was made available, but it just wasn't used, so to speak. Why do you think that would be the case?
Well, I wouldn't say intelligence was made available. I would rather say there was a failure of intelligence. The security architecture, the security arrangement should have put in place adequate means for the collection, for the analysis of intelligence that would have forewarned them that something like this is going to happen, and that would have allowed them to take action to prevent the type of killing. There are two developments that we need to speak about. Firstly, there was allegedly an initial attack against a particular ethnic group.
Yes, exactly.
And then that particular ethnic group responded by carrying out reprisal attack. And then there was another reprisal attack by another ethnic group. So in the three instances, there appears the security apparatus failed to stop both the initial attack as well as the reprisal attacks. Remember that the final reprisal attack was when certain elements of the society blocked the highway and killed innocent people who were traveling.
Absolutely.
So clearly, the security forces did not read the situation very well, and they did not take adequate measures to prevent the breakdown of law and order. And that is, for me, is a failure of intelligence. It's not about them being provided with intelligence and not using the intelligence. It's about them not even appreciating the function of intelligence in security arrangement.
So bottom line is that the signs were there, but the security agencies just failed to act.
Yes, the signs were there, but you can only see the signs if you know what to look for. So clearly, the security agencies were not looking for those signs. In almost all the crises in Nigeria, there are always signs. If you look for those signs, the signs are always there. And in our instance, we need to enhance on our collection capabilities, both technical and human intelligence collection. We need to emphasize, we need to really improve on that. We also need to improve on the sharing of intelligence between the various security agencies. And then finally, the political will for the implementation of the necessary preventative measures that would reduce this type of carnage that we saw. One critical element beyond intelligence now is how do you appreciate the vulnerabilities inherent within a particular environment. Jos or Plateau State has an undulating terrain, very mountainous, and I stand to be corrected. I'm not aware that any of the security forces presently is manning those mountainous areas. Almost all the security forces concentrate on the roadside. Nobody wants to go into the forest. Nobody wants to take charge of those mountainous areas. And that is where these bad elements, these attackers, take advantage of. They use these mountains, they understand the terrain, and they are able to attack at will, unfortunately.
Let's talk about human intelligence now, whether we like it or not. That is very important. I mean, other security experts like yourself have said, look, collection of human intelligence is very important, but then that would only work where there is some kind of trust now between the civilian community and the security or the intelligence community now. What do you think needs to change in terms of the gathering of human intelligence?
I would be bold to say we need to do a dialysis. I know the president has indicated he would rejig the security architecture. I would plead with him to take it a bit further. We need to do a dialysis of our security infrastructure. What do I mean by this? From the inception, from recruitment to training to even the philosophy behind the mandate of the security forces, until you and I, as citizens, believe that the functions of the security organizations is to protect our lives and property. It is only then that we'll be happy to share intelligence with them. Right now, I can bet you if you do a tool, probably a significant percentage of Nigerians do not believe that the security forces are primarily there to protect their lives and property. I have done a study, and I stand to be corrected. Most of the security organizations, unfortunately, have political mandates, the protection of regimes, administration as their primary responsibility. This bulk is in the hands of the National Assembly. They need to review the laws that set up almost all the security organizations. Remember, and this is significant, they were established during a military era. And at that time, the primary focus of most of the security organizations was regime protection. Now, how many years into our democracy, the National Assembly has not deemed it fit to look closely at those laws, change them, and ensure that the protection of national interest, especially of you and I as citizens, is the responsibility of those security organizations. The leadership, the appointment of the leadership of these organizations needs to be, the political element behind the appointments need to be reduced. If you, as the leader of the DSS, knows that the only way you remain in office is if the president is happy with you, then you would always dance to the tune of the president. But if we change it for that leadership to be answerable to the people, then I believe at that point in time he would be more responsive to the needs of the people. So it is only when these things are done that the trust and confidence between the people and the security forces would be enhanced. And that means then if you have information that would be useful to the security forces, you will make it readily available to them. Secondly, the means with which this information is made available. Till date, we don't have functional telephone lines, easy to memorize telephone lines that you can pick up and call. In some states like Lagos, they've gone a bit further in providing emergency lines, the 3 code lines where you can call and provide such information. But even there, it's not as effective as it should be. Try calling the 122 for the road safety and see what happens. So we need to look closely at those things. Enough of this community police jargon. Sorry to use that language. we need to make it more effective and more efficient, and more importantly, more user-friendly, where the citizen is able to do his responsibility. In advanced countries, even when you don't have service on your phone, you are able to call the emergency line. Even when there is no money on your phone, you are able to call the emergency line. In Nigeria, that's not the case. So frankly, we need to look at those options. It's only when all of this is done that the citizen, you and I, would now be able to make this information available to the security organizations.
But let me quickly ask you, what do you make of the actions that we've seen the security agencies take in the immediate aftermath of the attack? For instance, the Chief of Defense Staff deploying more special forces to that state, the Air Force sending in the Mi-35 combat helicopter. The police attempted to change the commissioner of police in that state, but eventually the IG rescinded his decision.
With due respect to them, I think it's a lack of understanding of the basic tenets of civil security in an atmosphere where you have, a security situation involving civil populations. You don't use that kind of military force. It's not going to solve any problem. If military force was going to solve the problem, how many years has Operation Safe Haven been in operation in Plateau State? If I remember well, it was set up in 2010, and we're 8 years down the road, we're still having this type of carnage. So clearly, military force is not what we need. We need a civil approach involving the communities themselves, where you build trust, you initiate projects that bring them together to work together to protect themselves. We also need a media. I must emphasize the role of the media in building peace. Right now, I'm seeing a media that is unable to disaggregate the issues, that unfortunately in some instances is sectional, and that does not speak to both sides of the divide. If there is a conflict like this, there are two people fighting. If you concentrate on only the story by one side, then you are not solving, you are adding to the problem. So a lot of the media are guilty of that. They need to expand their horizon. They need to speak to both sides. They need to look at the issues, the root causes of the issues, and then they need to build, confidence building among the various segments of society. And more importantly, they need to start a discussion towards a joint, solution by both sides. I would always speak to inclusion and diversity. Most of the challenges that we have in Nigeria is as a result of a perception of marginalization. If you look at Plateau State, that is the cause of the crisis there. A perception of marginalization, a perception of lack of inclusion in governance. So we need to see more of that. And it is to that extent that I call on especially the state governments in Plateau, in Benue, to look more closely at some of the laws that they are enacting. The laws may be good, but they need to get the buy-in of the generality of the people living in those states. If you exclude a particular population, even if that's not the intention of the law, but they see that law as exclusionary, then unfortunately you have a situation like what we have in our hands. So more importantly, we need diversity, we need inclusion in governance.
Kabir Adamu, thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for your contributions.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. On Deji 360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent. Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country.
I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly.
God forbid that I go to join that
Deji 360, providing clarity to issues.